Blue Protocol Star Resonance is a game that anime fans and MMORPG players have been waiting for a very long time. Now on October 9, the game is finally releasing globally. Most anime games that claim to be an MMO these days are just ending up being a gacha game. However, this game is closer to what you would expect from an anime MMORPG. You create your own character. The game focuses heavily on exploration, the community aspect, connecting with other players, customizing your characters, and of course the endgame dungeons and raids. Big shoutout and thanks to Blue Protocol Star Resonance for sponsoring this video and giving me early access. So let's start out with the character creator. So of course you have different presets and different body types, and of course you can also, after choosing your preset, go into the more detailed creation. What stands out specifically is how much you can customize your hair, like to what level of detail. You can choose up to 3 different colors in your hair and a bunch of other stuff. So the character creator, you can spend a lot of time to really make the character the way you want it. Aside from the character creator itself, you have a ton of different outfits. I haven't counted it, but it's probably way over 100 different customization items and outfits. Now in terms of classes, the game has currently 8 classes, which are separated into the holy trinity of classes, basically tank, DPS and healer. In this game the DPS is called attack position, and the tank is called guard position, and the healer is called support. The classes are not gender bound, so you can play any class with any gender. Additionally, all of the 8 classes have 2 specs. So as you level up and you gain skill points, once you maxed out your base level skill tree, you can choose which of those 2 specs you want to run. The first class I want to check out is the Verdant Oracle. So this one is a healer character, wields a nature ring, excelling in long range healing. And the 2 specs is the Smite spec and the Lifebind spec. Smite spec can deal a little bit more damage, while the Lifebind spec sacrifices those damage capabilities to be a better healer. Next we have the Heavy Guardian, which I would consider the main tank in the game. Wields a guard blade, excelling in close range combat. The 2 different specs are the Earth Fort spec and the Block spec. The Block spec is even more tank heavy, and the Earth Fort spec can deal a little bit more damage. So again, I'm just simplifying everything here to the very base level. Otherwise it would take too long to go over all of these things in detail. Next we have Marksman, basically the archer of the game. Additionally to the archer skills, you also have kind of like a pet that you're gonna summon, and those are basically the 2 specs. You have the Wild Pack spec, where you fight alongside your Wild Wolf, and you have the Falconry spec, where you fight alongside the Falcon. Next we got the Mage class of the game, the Frost Mage, and yeah, wields a frost staff, excelling in long range combat, so this is a typical mage. And we have the Icicle spec and the Frost Beam spec. Both specs are very high damage output, so it just depends and comes down to what type of skills you prefer. Next we have the Shield Knight, which is another tank or another guard, and the specs is the Recovery spec and the Shield spec. What makes the Shield Knight pretty unique in both of these specs, Recovery spec and Shield spec, is that he has a lot of self-heal. Difference being Vanguard Strike can get you Holy Barrier at the Shield spec, and on the Recovery spec you can use Valor Bash to increase your defense. Next we have the Lancer class of the game. In this game it's called Wind Knight, and the 2 specs are Vanguard spec and Skyward spec. Next we have my main class that I'm currently playing, which is the Stormblade. Wields a Reaper Scythe, excelling in close range combat, switches seamlessly between Scythe and Longsword forms. Depending on what specs you choose, you focus more on the Longsword form or more on the Scythe form. And last but not least we got the Beat Performer, basically the Bard class of the game. So this is kind of like a support healer. Not as powerful in terms of healing capabilities, however is able to provide some buffs additionally. The Concerto spec basically makes him a really strong healer, and the Dissonance spec keeps the idea of a bard where you heal a little bit but mainly focus on buffing the team. Now to the gameplay aspect. What I think puts this game in a pretty unique position is, if you think about gacha games, you have usually pretty good story, but you truly don't have any multiplayer experience other than a little bit co-op here and there, and it doesn't provide you any benefit in most cases. Most cases even slows you down. While on most MMORPGs, the multiplayer aspect is really good. However, the story is lacking, right? And I think Blue Protocol Star Resonance found a good solution for that. It's pretty strong on the story, and it bakes the dungeons and domains into the story. So you have the story version of the dungeon, and once you beat the story version of the dungeon, it will get added to your dungeon hub. So in the main city you have a central hub with a bunch of portals to all of the different domains, and at the beginning all of them are locked, but as you progress through the story and beat the story domains, the story dungeons, more and more portals will get unlocked, and then you can play the multiplayer version of that dungeon. The dungeon and endgame difficulty has a pretty wide gap, or pretty big variance, so to say. So there are dungeons that are definitely on the easier side of things. In the earlier dungeons, or the easier difficulty ones, you can definitely choose to simply ignore the mechanics, while later towards endgame this is not an option anymore. Now the open world exploration is also pretty fun, and one thing in particular I found very good, which might sound very mundane, but it's, if you play it yourself, you will see that it's a huge difference compared to most MMORPGs, and that is, as you progress and level up and explore more, you unlock exploration skills, and one of them is like you get more jumps, right? You start with double jump, and the highest level is like you can do 5 double jumps in mid-air. And again, it sounds really mundane and stupid, but makes it much less restrictive. I really do hope they update the game with some really good content regularly. And I will definitely be playing and covering the game on the channel. If you want to check out the game yourself, I leave a link in the description down below, as well as a pinned comment. Big thanks again to Blue Protocol Star Resonance for sponsoring the video. Thanks for watching, and I leave you with some more gameplay footage of one of the later boss fights.
今日はまさにアステルリーズが終焉を迎える日だ。まだ抵抗しようとするか、愚かな真似よ。卑しき人間ども、虚飾に埋もれ消え去るがいい。
デンブリ、私はかつてお前に力を与えると誓った。今こそそれを果たす。
私を呼んでいるのか。人間ごとき我に逆らうと